Hi, it's Kirby Summers, and I welcome you to the Epstein Project podcast. As all of you probably know, I've finished my latest book, Ghislaine Maxwell, An Unauthorized Biography, and the response so far from the people who pre ordered, who were among the first people to receive the book, has been great, so I'm so excited. This book will be on Audible. It'll be available in bookstores. It'll be everywhere. Right now, it's only available on my website, kirbysummers.com. What I wanted to do today, because many of you sort of, you have busy lives and you don't have a lot of time for actually reading, is that I thought I would read a chapter for you. So this is chapter 10. It's called Good Time Ghislaine. Annabelle's is a private members only club in Mayfair, in the centre of London, in a district known as the West End. It was founded in 1963 by Mark Burleigh, then married to Lady Annabel Van Tempest Stewart, after whom he named it. Annabel would later marry Sir Jimmy Goldsmith, rumored to be a spy, and who, in the early 1970s, became a friend of Jeffrey Epstein's. It was the very first of its kind, a club for the very affluent, the very powerful, or the very famous. Their clientele included the royal family, Charles, Prince of Wales, who everyone believed would be king in short order, and his younger brother, Prince Andrew. It was the only club that Queen Elizabeth ever attended. In later years, it became the go to club for royals like Prince William and Harry. The entrance was lined even from the earliest days with the rich, the powerful, and the beautiful, where streams of the upper class descended into the basement to party. Journalists were never admitted, and the entertainment included the Rolling Stones, Diana Ross, and in earlier days, Ella Fitzgerald. Joan Collins was in the club dancing one evening, and a photographer from The Sun had managed to get himself into the club. He snapped a photo of her and was immediately plucked off the dance floor by two burly men who left him lying on the pavement outside, sans the film in his camera. After tumbling down the stairs into the poshest basement on the planet, one is welcome into a den of hedonistic indulgence. The rooms were covered in wild wallpaper, along with paintings by Picasso and racy nude drawings. The bathroom sinks were in the shape of golden swans, and the walls a sensual floral pink. A life size gorilla, sitting on a chair, stood guard at the end of the hallway. It was over the top eccentric, but most of all, it was posh. In the 1980s, Ghislaine Maxwell was one of the somebodies, along with her friends from Oxford. As with debutantes of days long gone, Ghislaine would murmur, "Take me to Bell's," to the man of the moment. And one of her men in the 1980s was David Faber, a future MP. Annabelle's was the sort of place where anything went and where smooching, in one of dozens of its nooks and crannies, was as much a part of the experience as kicking off one's shoes or one's clothes and losing oneself to the pulsating euphoria of the music on the infamous wooden dance floor. David Faber is a descendant of several British politicians. He also happens to be the great grandson of the founder of Macmillan Publishing. More tidbits about David include that his uncle, Maurice Macmillan, worked with Sir Edward Heath during the time he was a prime minister. Heath is alleged to have sexually abused children commencing in 1961. He served for 51 years as a member of parliament and died in 2005. It should be noted that Macmillan was taken over by Robert Maxwell in November of 1988 for $2.6 billion. Although Maxwell claimed he had no plans to dispose of the company's assets, 1 month later he sold a piece of it, Intertech, to an investment group led by Rothschild Incorporated, the same company that served as his advisor in the purchase. Robert S. Pyrie, the co-chairman and CEO of Rothschild North America, was his advisor in the transaction. In 1993, Pyrie went on to become the senior managing director of Bear Stearns and Company. I thought it interesting that all the people in Maxwell's world circled around to those in Epstein's world, and so I tracked down an old New York Times article. It states Bear Stearns hired Mr. Pyrie as a senior managing director. The firm, known primarily for trading, is trying to increase its banking business. A 1984 photo of David Faber dragging a disheveled and unbalanced 22-year-old Ghislaine while holding up her arm, attempting to keep her steady on her feet at Annabelle's exists. It was taken by Defeat Jones, who worked at Tatler magazine from 1981 through 1989. Jones, armed with a discreet camera and a dinner jacket to blend into the crowd, took some of the best photographs of Britain's high society at the time. He said, a lot of the dramas and important moments in people's lives happened during parties. His collection includes young and sloppy drunken parties with fully clothed debutantes pushed into lily ponds and swimming pools. They were living in a bubble, he explained. It was cool to be wearing black tie and dressing up in reaction against relaxed style, which had gone before in the 1970s. While Annabelle's always maintained a no photo policy banishing any member who breached protocol, nowadays with the advent of social media, their house rule has morphed into photography within the club and posting to social media should be discreet and not involve or feature other members and their guests. Ghislaine and David began their romance while both at Oxford University. I was able to find a second photograph also taken by Defeat Jones of Faber with Maxwell at the Chelsea Arts Ball during the club's extravagant New Year's Eve party on December 31st, 1985. And there were probably many more before all things Maxwell began to get scrubbed off the internet after Jeffrey Epstein's second arrest on July 6, 2019. Elaine's father, Bob, who had already cozied up to the royal family and was fond of having his photo taken with Prince Charles, Princess Diana, and the Queen, would have been delighted to know Ghislaine was dancing up a storm and rubbing elbows with the royals. Prince Andrew was also a frequent guest at Annabelle's, which is an 8-minute drive to another one of his favorite clubs, Tramp. The Chelsea Arts Club is another private members club established in 1891. To be considered as a member, one needs to be sponsored by two current members. It was known for its hedonism, where literally anything was allowed: nudity, sex, homosexuality at a time when it wasn't the norm. Everything happened behind the ever changing murals hand painted by their resident artists. David wasn't the only woman I'm sorry, Ghislaine wasn't the only woman David romanced. While at Oxford, he also dated Sally Gilbert, a leggy blonde, who is said by a contemporary of his to have pursued him with the greatest determination. He didn't have a chance. She became a television weather girl and they married in 1988. By 1992, Sally had fallen out of love with David, finding him to be lacking in warmth, and found herself being comforted by the world's most celebrated cad, James Hewitt. Faber, when filing for divorce, cited James Hewitt as a co-respondent. Major Hewitt, it should be noted, was Princess Diana's writing teacher, and in the household cavalry when tasked to give her writing lessons. Hewitt, while romancing Faber's soon-to-be ex-wife, revealed himself as having a 5-year affair with Princess Diana that began in 1986. To avoid getting caught, Diana used the code name Julia when sending mail to Hewitt. Hewitt told the world via a book co-authored with British journalist Anna Pasternak that he was Princess Diana's lover in 1994 when she was still married to Prince Charles, the future King of England. Diana was bitterly hurt and devastated when she learned he had shopped around the story of their affair. Although there are claims she continued to see him afterwards up to several months before her untimely death in Paris on August 31st, 1997. Ghislaine Maxwell was not considered a good student during her time at Oxford, not by her professors and not even by herself. She did, however, earn the nickname Good Time Ghislaine. This suited her just fine. In 2010, David Faber became the 10th headmaster of Summerfield School in Oxford. It is a boarding school for boys aged 4 to 13. The bio on the school's page reads, he is an old boy of the school, a former parent, and had previously served as a governor for 9 years. He teaches history with a particular expertise in the Second World War and the history of appeasement. After attending Summerfield, along with many other members of his family, David Faber was educated at Eton and at Oxford, where he read modern languages, played second something cricket, and won half blue for rackets. After university, he worked for the Conservative Party in a number of roles before contesting the Stockton North constituency unsuccessfully at the 1987 general election. He was elected to Parliament in 1992 for the Westbury seat in West Wiltshire, which he held for 9 years. His name is in Jeffrey Epstein's Black Book. From the awkward-looking teenager, Ghislaine Maxwell had grown into an adult. She seemed taller than her height, perhaps because of her heels, or how she carried herself. The youngest daughter of Robert Maxwell is described by those who knew her as thin, with broad shoulders and thick black layered hair. Her complexion is pale, and her fingernails are regularly manicured with a crimson red nail polish. One person added she had an intense sexuality, an almost androgynous allure. Robert Maxwell was fond of saying, I have a beautiful daughter who is just like me. Okay, so that's chapter 10, and I hope you enjoy it. The book again is available right now on my website, kirbysummers.com. I want to thank everyone who has stepped up to purchase it, all of you who just continue to just be incredibly um, inspiring and motivating and who keep pushing me to keep going forward. I believe the life of Ghislaine Maxwell, in order to understand the crimes that she has been alleged to have committed against a great number of victims for a great number of years, is best understood if you know who she was before she met Jeffrey Epstein. So in my book, I cover the first 31 years of her life. And I also explain how she met Epstein. I think there's a lot of misinformation, intentional misinformation, because as we know, her family has become involved in trying to get Ghislaine to be released from jail. One thing I will share with you is that I extended an invitation to Isabel Maxwell, who purchased the book, to send me a statement, which I would be happy to include as part of the book. I sent this to her a few days ago, and I've yet to hear back from her, but it's my understanding from a third source that she will be responding to my request. So let's see what happens. As always, I will keep you posted. Please remember to like this video. Okay, again, it's Kirby Summers for the Epstein Project, and I thank you for listening. Have a good day. Bye.